Hey, it's Michelle. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be giving you the best books that I read in 2019, and there are not a lot of them. And let me explain. In 2019, I was in a very bad reading slump for 9 months, and I reread a lot of books. So I reread a lot of favorites, and they will not be included on this list because I've already talked about them 1.5 billion times, and these are books that I liked, that I had read for the first time in 2019, that I gave 4 or 5 stars, and I will go over that with you, but I'm only going to be talking about 6-ish because one's a series. So let's get started. The first book that I want to talk about is Heroine by Mindy McGinnis, and I gave Heroine 5 stars this year. Heroine is what you think it's about, and it's super dark, and it is really good. So the premise of this book is that a girl is in a car accident and is put on opioids, and she gets addicted to the opioids and then runs out of them. So she graduates herself to start using heroin. In the very beginning, this is not a spoiler because it's the very beginning and this is the first thing you find out, she wakes up to find that her 3 friends have died and she lived. So they have all died of an overdose and she lived, and she is going to a freaking baseball game. It is so intense. I got through this book so fast. I loved everything about it. It was scary, it was real, it was super dark, and I just loved everything about it. So I definitely, if you like dark contemporaries with hard-hitting messages, I would say Heroine is the right one for you. It was amazing. The next book on my list is American Royals by Katharine McGee. I loved this book. I didn't give it a full 5 stars. I think I gave it 4.5 because it was a little like, I don't know how to describe, but I loved it. It was so much drama. I wasn't expecting it, and it got me out of my slump, so I thank this book for that a lot. But basically, American Royals is a premise of what would happen if George Washington became a monarch instead of being president, and it was so good. So we follow the main character Beatrice, who is in line for the throne, and she is the first female in line for the throne. So it goes for her. She's being pushed into a marriage that she doesn't want to be in. She doesn't have any feelings for this guy, but she feels like she has to do it for her father. And then it follows her 2 twin siblings, and they are a hot mess. And I just love this book so much. It wasn't a full 5 stars for me, and that's okay, but it's still like something that I think about this year as one of my favorite books. So I'm glad I read it. Once again, it wasn't perfect. I wouldn't say it was perfect, but it got me out of my reading slump and I really enjoyed it. The next book on my list is Girls on the Verge by Sharon Biggs Waller. This one really surprised me. Again, this wasn't a full 5 stars. I gave this 4 stars because, in my opinion, I felt it was a little short. But the premise of this book is that a girl gets pregnant after having sex for the first time. She used protection, but it failed. She lives in Texas, and she has to go through all these processes to try to get an abortion, and she is blocked at every process. So she tries to go to Mexico and get a legal pill to try to abort the fetus, and it was so good. It was super scary because these laws in Texas exist today, so it just ended up like where she, how she got the abortion. I really love this one. It was super dark. It was not fun to read, but because these laws exist in Texas today, but I thought it was so good, so heart-wrenching. I felt for this main character, and I loved it a lot. It was not, it's not like a pretty YA book that, I don't recommend it to everyone, but I thought it was really good. The next books I'm going to talk about are actually a series, and I'm going to start with the first one, obviously, and that is Confessions of a High School Disaster Freshman Year by Emma Chastain. This is the Chloe Snow Diaries. I read this just because I was reading books off my shelves, and this one I knew from the cover looked like a fun summer contemporary, and it kind of was. It goes through the entire like school year of a freshman, and I loved it so much. And a lot of people don't like these books, and I can kind of see why, because there is cheating, especially in this first book, which is not something a lot of people like to read about because cheating is bad, I understand, but I really liked it. So the next book that I'm going to talk about is the second one, and that's The Year of Living Awkwardly by Emma Chastain, and then the third one, Notes from a Former Virgin. I really like these series. This isn't talked about a lot, and I don't think there's going to be a fourth one for her senior year. I read the last one recently, and it sounded like it was just ending junior year, which is really sad. And I feel like, I think Notes from a Former Virgin only has like 18 reviews on Goodreads, and I'm one of them. And I'm just really sad that it's probably not going to continue, and I wish more people were reading these, because it's just like, it's super easy to read, it's told in diary format, it's super funny. I wish more people were reading them. Once again, these weren't perfect books. I gave everyone 4 stars. I didn't give anyone 5 stars. They aren't perfect, but they're super funny, they're super light reads, and I love them a lot, and I wish people were talking about them, and I just like read them at the end of this year, so yeah. The next book on my list is the book that I haven't talked about on my channel yet because I read it this month in December, so here we go. It is Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. I think in my very first unhaul on this channel, I was set to unhaul this book because I read 100 pages of this and wasn't vibing with it, but for some reason I kept it. So once again, I'm reading my shelves and I'm like, all right, let's give this one another chance. I loved this book so much. This is the story of Eleanor Oliphant, who is a homebody. She has her own routine, she doesn't have any friends, she's all alone, and she has her very own ways of doing things until she meets her new coworker Raymond, and they help this old guy who falls in the street. And basically her and Raymond start a friendship, and I really like this because it was just a friendship between a male and a female, and it was amazing. And then something happens in the middle of this book that shocked me so much, and I had no idea it was coming, and then we get to the end and I literally went, what the fuck? And then it was over. And it was so good, and this one I did give 5 stars too. This book is amazing. The writing took me a little bit because I think I mentioned this in my DNF video that I don't necessarily like books that aren't set in America, and this is not. This is in Ireland, I believe, and so it took me a while to get used to the language and stuff, which is just a me thing. I will let you know. That is no, just me. But it was super easy to read. It was so good. I love everything about this. I think it's being turned into a movie, and God, I hope so, and I hope that it does really well because this book was so good. This was a 5-star book, and I'm so glad I read it and I didn't unhaul it. It was amazing. And then by far my favorite book of this year is a book that I read in January of 2019, and no book has come close to being as good as this book, and I cannot believe it took me so long to read this book because this is a backlist title and I am behind on the times, and I'm still gonna talk about it. But my favorite book of 2019 was I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson. This book has been on my shelf for as long as this book has been out, I think. I believe this book came out in 2015, and I just read it this year in 2014. 2014! This book has been on my shelves, and I'm just letting it go, not really caring. No, I really messed up. So what happens is I picked up this book, I don't know why, in January. I was like, okay, it's time, here we go. It's amazing. This book follows two timelines. Noah when he's 13 and Jude when she's 16, and then at the end they merge, and it is beautifully written. It is so heartbreaking. I would die for Noah Sweetwater, and I think that was the only thing I said in my review because I was too busy crying and I couldn't do anything else. But basically, this book made me cry so hard. It was amazing. I cannot... If you've read this and you're like, Michelle, this book has been out for 6 years, what are you doing? I totally know. So, yes. What I will say about this, which I didn't know when I picked it up, is that there are only like 4 chapters in this book, and there's no like page breaks at all, and the chapters are like 100 pages. So, I didn't know that going in, and that was quite a shock because normally I don't read that like that. I like page breaks, I like chapter breaks, I like breaks. But this book had no breaks, and I'm kind of glad that it did because it made me read it a little bit faster and made me cry faster. So this book is great. If you haven't read it, if it's just sitting on your shelf like it sat on my shelf for 6 years, I would definitely recommend you read it. I don't want to go too much in detail about it because I don't want to get spoilery, but just know it's 2 different timelines and they converge at the end and then you'll cry. So yeah. So those are my favorite books that I read in 2019. I'm so excited to see what I'm going to read in 2020 and have a bunch of favorite books. My goal is to read 100 books this year. We'll see. Let me know if you've read any of these books and if they're your favorite books as well. Let me know how many books you're trying to read this year in 2020. I hope you have a good day. Bye!